All right, so welcome back to our Board of Supervisors meeting, and we're going to start off with item number 16.
16 is from the Environmental Management Agency. Authorize the board chair to execute a professional services agreement between Calaveras County and Tetra Tech Incorporated for the recovery of homeowners' insurance revenue associated with the Cal Recycle right of entry debris removal operations for an amount not to exceed $854,656.81.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. Mary Rose Ruchikanga with the Administrative Office. I'm actually here also representing Environmental Health as Jason Bateser is in Sacramento this afternoon. Before you is the last piece of our debris removal Butte Fire program funded through our public assistance projects. This is the insurance recovery piece of that project. If you recall, we entered into contract with Cal Recycle for Butte Fire affected properties for debris removal. The state has required us to implement a insurance cost recovery program to recover the cost of that debris removal. So this contract does exactly that. It is going to be doing the public outreach, the insurance policy review, determination of policy limits, etc., and working with homeowners in recouping at all insurance monies owed to the state for that debris removal program. This contract was let through a request for proposal in July. We received 2 bids. Tetra Tech was the successful bidder as per our evaluation committee. We then started contract negotiations and finalized about the end of September with the contract negotiations, and we are bringing forth the contract in the amount of $854,656.81.
Any public comments on this?
Board, good afternoon. I'm Michael Farley. This is Bob Ellenberg from the company called Unity Adjusters of California. We are here to express our comment because of some glaring deficiencies which exist, or we believe exist, in the bid tendered by Tetra Tech. Before we get into the merits of what we view to be the discrepancies, I want to be very clear about one thing. Just in the few hours I've been sitting in this well and listening, it is abundantly clear that Tetra Tech has been an enormous asset to this county following the fire in September 2015. Tetra Tech's own website amply demonstrates how qualified those folks are to render what I'll describe in general terms as construction or construction management related services. But what we're talking about in connection with this RFP has really very little to do with construction management services, or really anything that Tetra Tech historically finds within its sphere of experience. Bob Ellenberg is one of the principals, Victor Romero is one of the principals, and Peter Romero is the other principal of Unity Adjusters of California. I'll just refer to it as Unity. They have been public adjusters for decades. Their sole professional purpose is to provide adjustment-related services to those folks who have a homeowner's first-party insurance loss. That experience, that decades worth of experience, comes from tedious, sometimes mind-numbing review of homeowners' insurance policies. Now, I'll be honest. When I sat down and I read Tetra Tech's bid and I compared it to Unity's bid, I'll be the first to admit, Tetra Tech's bid reads more smooth. It just reads very well. I mean, you can just glance right through the first 30 pages. There are about 3 pages that have a chart and some columns. And then you look at Unity's bid, and it's a grind. It's even got samples of what were provided in the bid, sample documents of summary of losses. The purpose of the summary was not to demonstrate line item by line item what sort of evaluation goes into determining debris removal, but rather to demonstrate how complicated the whole process is. As a general rule, it's been my experience that people are of the understanding, when they're told by their adjuster, oh, you get 5% of your coverage for your debris removal. And everyone thinks, okay. But no one really understands what that means. Tetra Tech's bid may not necessarily include the specificity of these summary loss documents, but likewise, it doesn't even acknowledge that there is a difference between Unity's bid to recover more indemnity dollars, meaning money owed to the policyholder. Rather, their bid seems to suggest what's called subrogation rights are in play, which is to say, if PG&E is at fault for the fire, well, Tetra Tech will go after PG&E to recover the funds somehow that PG&E owes. Now, as we stand here in this boardroom, the difference between indemnity and subrogation may be meaningless, and it may be, legalese lost, in the ether. But out in the real world, when the adjuster is on the phone with the public adjuster, and there's a dispute concerning how much is to be paid, that difference can be in the tens of thousands of dollars. Again, I'm not here to diminish from what Tetra Tech can and has done. I just heard this morning that they're principally involved right now in tree removal, and there was a supplement to a contract. Again, we're not here to diminish from what they can do. But Tetra Tech's bid is silent as to one very important item, and that is their representation that they have licensure issued by the Department of Insurance to act as a public adjuster. Based upon our research, we believe that deficiency, that shortcoming, amounts to an outright bar to an award of this contract to Tetra Tech. Why? Not because they can't get one in the future, they can't get public licensure in the future, but rather because they didn't have a public adjuster. Yes, sir.
Diane?
I'm sorry, I was advised to let them proceed with their comments.
Really?
Yes.
If I talk too much?
Is that why you're giving this to me? All right. Proceed.
Am I going on too long? Anyways, I'll be brief. The fact that Tetra Tech is prominent in their field does not make them qualified without a license to serve as a public adjuster relative to collecting first-party benefits on behalf of the individual homeowners here in Calaveras County. I'd be happy to take any questions concerning those opinions.
So are you appealing or protesting?
Protesting.
We are protesting, yes, sir. I might add that our protest was in part deficient because as of the time we were required to file our protest, we didn't really have an opportunity to even examine Tetra Tech's bid. So when we finally got our hands on it, we did our best to scour its terms, scour its conditions. In fact, when we learned that the board had awarded this RFP to Tetra Tech, the first thought that came to my mind was seeing how involved Tetra Tech is in this county, that the board may have thought that, they can hit the ground running. I mean, they're an enormous company. They're here already. And what's in the best interests of the residents of this county is Tetra Tech. And then I remembered reading in the bid that they don't have any office space set up here and expected the county to fund the office space. Unity's bid, from the very beginning, anticipated the need to open up office space, open up halls so that the residents could come in, have one-on-one, face-to-face meetings with licensed adjusters, in particular public adjusters. So our protest, in all honesty, may have been deficient, but in self-defense, that wasn't because we were deficient, we just didn't have it to look at.
I have a question for County Council.
Okay.
What is the process here I mean, they just got up and started talking, so we weren't, I mean, you guys didn't look like the board was aware of what was going on.
Honestly, my question was, who are you and who exactly are you representing?
What's happening?
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm Michael Farley, and I'm representing the other bidder.
Yeah, first, let me see
Okay,
if the county
so,
council can
hang on a
explain.
second.
Very well.
Because what was presented to us is our agenda item,
Yeah.
right? This, I just got a note now, it says it's RFP protest. This is the first I heard of it. Anybody else hear of anything like this?
That's my assumption.
So,
That's my assumption. The item in front of the board is the contract. The bid was put out. There were, as staff indicated, there were 2 responsive bidders. The item before the board right now is to award the contract to the winning bidder. It appears that these 2 gentlemen are the representatives of the other bidder, who is not the winning company. And so, based on the testimony that they presented during public comment, I assumed that it was the protest. Would you like to clarify, Mary Rose?
Thanks.
I'll just speak briefly to the protest process of an RFP. Once a successful bidder is deemed successful of an RFP, we then begin contract negotiations. Once contract negotiations have finalized and we have set a board date, we then notify the unsuccessful bidder 18 days prior to that board date of our intent to award a contract to the other bidder. So that letter was sent to Unity Adjustments that our intent to award the contract to Tetra Tech. In that letter, it specified that they had 7 days to respond to my letter in regards to soliciting a protest of the RFP. They did respond and sent me a protest letter within that 7-day period. I then spoke with the evaluation committee, I spoke with council and responded to their protest letter and advised them that if they still wish to protest the RFP, that they had the ability to do so here at the board meeting. So that is they're exercising their right within protest to come and speak before the board.
except for the board didn't know anything about it.
The board, when we agendized this item, it was well before the notification of the protest that was coming from them.
Well, I mean, still, we could have had some kind of communication even as late as Thursday of last week.
And I acknowledge that Supervisor Supervisor Edson, I had no idea that they were coming to the board to protest to the supervisors.
Right, so we have to follow in my mind, we have to follow the agenda item. That's what's on our agenda. And I let them continue further because, further than 3 minutes, because I was asked to by county council. But normally, it's a 3-minute period. So if that's a protest, I think we should follow a process around it. I don't know, what is the process then?
I don't know how a protest differs from an appeal mechanism. I'm sure that they are probably different. But as our county code, that's kind of the process that we do. Just as our previous with Phillips and Jordan, they kind of came and petitioned to the board. The board has the ability to take heed what they say or to award the contract to Tetra Tech. I will state that the evaluation committee did a thorough job of evaluating the proposals brought forth. We took our time in writing the RFP proposal, in extending the proposal deadline to address the numerous questions received by Unity Adjustments during the proposal period. And then we took time in thoroughly evaluating those proposals as well. The evaluation committee was made up of Mel Knight, our director, our consultant brought on from CAHA, the California Environmental Health Association, that's overseeing the debris removal program. Rebecca Callan was also part of the evaluation committee, as was Judy Hawkins, our Director of Risk Management and Insurance. And so out of those 3 employees, they reviewed the proposals within I would say at least 3 or, within a time frame during the day, and came to the decision of awarding the contract to Tetra Tech. That was done because of the experience that Tetra Tech has of dealing with federal and state agencies, the scope of work that they brought forth in ensuring that the dialogue between the state agencies and the county was going to be done to the utmost fullest, and also the capacity of Tetra Tech. They have the staff and the capacity to begin work immediately once the contract is fully executed. And I think that was some discussion amongst the evaluation committee as when I spoke with the protest letter with the evaluation committee. For those reasons, that is why the evaluation committee awarded the contract to Tetra Tech.
So do we,
I'm not disputing that. What was the day that you knew, or what was the date that you got the protest back from them?
Well, it was actually, I sent them the original letter on October 5th that we were awarding the contract to Tetra Tech. And then I didn't hear anything back, and I realized that their letter back to me was stuck in our spam email. And so I didn't notice until, I believe October 15th or 16th. However, their letter was done within the 7 days. When I noticed the timestamp, it was on October, I believe, 10th that they sent it. So it was well within that time frame. And so then I met with council, we responded, and then that was where it was left. I had no notification from them that they were going to protest up to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay. But they did protest.
They did submit a letter of protest, which is, we've had occurrences like that before as well with requests for proposals.
do we have a process in place that we follow and for protests?
Yes, we, once so it has to be done specifically within a time frame. Once a protest letter is received, we review the letter with the evaluation committee to look at what they are protesting, and then we respond to that letter.
And then what happens?
And then they have the ability, if they so choose, to make their concerns at the Board of Supervisors
During public comment period?
during public comment period.
Did we send them a response?
I did, sir. I sent them a response on October, I'm sorry, I don't have that with me. I believe it was the 17th or so.
That's correct.
Okay.
Stating our intent to still award the contract to Tetra Tech.
You might want to put in a process to notify the Board of Supervisors in the future, so we're not, like
I mean,
when you notify them, maybe you notify the board.
Staff report?
Or put it
Sure.
in-
Yeah, but the staff report was already submitted to and approved prior to.
Right. And
Yeah.
so just have send to county council, they could send that to us or something like that, like some type of, so we know that what's going on.
Or alternatively, the department who's bringing the item forward.
Right,
Just-
not to put any burden on the county council, so.
Yeah. Or to the clerk.
or clerk.
Somebody,
Okay,
thank you.
duly noted.
Okay,
Any other questions?
thank you.
Maybe approaching the chair.
Yep.
If I can speak to just a couple of things that she said. The normal protest procedure for government bid contracts, everywhere I've ever seen, it's written in the state of California's ordinances. It's written in many, many places, and your council can probably confirm this, would normally be that the bids get opened publicly so that if you didn't get the award and you see something in that bid that makes you think that's not right, I want to protest, you're given that. That was not the procedure that was followed here. I searched your ordinances. There may be written somewhere, and I missed it. She says you have a procedure in place. I could not find it. I read through all of your ordinances in an effort to find out what your protest procedure was. So in essence, I was told I have to protest it, but I don't know what I'm protesting. I was relatively certain that Tetra Tech didn't have the license that are required by the state. I got an opinion letter from the Department of Insurance saying you must have this license. That was the main thrust of my protest that I did give without being privy to seeing their bid. And as to why the selection committee would have ignored that, I don't know. Federal law under which you're getting this grant says that any license that are required must be, and they must be at the time that the bid's done. So I don't know why they felt that they could just do that. As to why we didn't notify you, when I got the letter on the 17th, it said that if we wanted to protest, we could protest to the board. So we showed up today. That's kind of the way the instructions looked to us.
Okay. I'm not disputing any of that.
Thank you, sir.
I'm just, we're just trying to make sure that the process is correct, and make sure that you're getting your due process too. We're just a little bit surprised, I think, that this is here because we knew nothing about it at all.
I understand.
And if I might add, our principal concern, in as much as these folks have dedicated their professional lives to public adjusting work, is to ensure that the residents of Calaveras County maximize their recovery under each individual homeowner's policy relative to debris removal. Our concern, or in particular the concern of Unity Adjusters, is midway through this process, a process that Tetra Tech anticipates will take up to 6 months. The Department of Insurance could very well issue a cease and desist order stopping future work because there's no licensed public adjuster at Tetra Tech to serve the individual policyholder. And I would direct your attention to Insurance Code Section 15007 and 15008. The insurance code is what mandates the public licensure requirement, not the industry, not custom and practice, it's the legislature.
Okay. Would you like to say anything else?
Not at this time.
The one other comment, I could go through their bid and give you many examples of why I don't believe that they're qualified, but they did say they would do this in 6 months. You can't tell how much money is left for debris removal in an open claim that hasn't been paid out the policy basic limits on the basic coverages. A lot of these will go 2 years. The Department of Insurance rules have that these folks have up to 2 years to settle these claims. It is an impossibility to close correctly and collect all the money for the debris removal on a claim that remains open that has money within the basic coverages. That won't happen on many of these claims till after 6 months. But Tetra Tech doesn't even know that. They said, we'll be done in 6 months.
Okay.
If I could highlight, just put that in a simple meaning. Under your general garden variety homeowners policy, when you have a loss, a first-party loss, the carrier and the state law allows each homeowner up to 2 full years from the date of loss to make, for instance, a personal property claim. I unfortunately knew some folks who lost their house. And I assure you, they're not worried about going down to the local hobby store and replace the golf clubs or whatever other fun things they had in the garage. They're focusing on their structure, getting the kids back in the house, getting them back into school, getting back to a routine. Additionally, the reason Bob is suggesting that Tetra Tech's estimate of 6 months is unrealistic is because in addition to providing 2 years, the policies also require a homeowner who is making a demand for personal property prove that they've replaced it. So everyone who's collected personal property over the course of 15 years has 2 years to replace everything and give proof of purchase to the carrier in order to get reimbursement or direct indemnity from the carrier. From my personal experience, I know for a fact the folks that I know down here are not going to get everything replaced in 2 years. let alone 6 months. But that's the way the policies are written. And that's why Tetra Tech's bid seems to suggest a lack of knowledge, a lack of specialty knowledge, expertise, relative to the recovery of all the indemnity due and owing under a homeowner's policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sarah DK, Deputy County Counsel. I just wanted to make one small point about having an opportunity to review the other bids or bid in this case, or that being open. It's a procedure by which an RFP goes out, bids are solicited, they're reviewed by the panel, and then state case law in the state of California is very clear that once terms of a proposed contract have been negotiated with the winning bidder as determined by the panel, at that point and not before, that's when the other bids and the scoring sheets become public upon request to other bidders. At that point, but not before, so as to not prejudice the contract negotiations, but at that point prior to today, so that non-winning bidders do have the opportunity to review those prior to coming in at a meeting like today.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do we have somewhere in our county code, the process?
The process for RFPs, for protests, I am not
Supervisor Wright, there isn't anything in our county code that addresses the procedure for it. Typically, it is laid out in the actual RFP.
The procedure is that, folks can make a written protest should they so choose, which in this case did happen. And then, obviously, as always, have the opportunity to come to a board meeting and make their pitch.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, does Tetra Tech want to say anything? All right, so I'm assuming that by our RFP that is being presented to us, that all of the laws that are applicable to the insurance, because of insurance codes, are being considered by the selection team, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? No?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Public comments, please. No public comments?
In response to the last answer that she gave you, I have a letter from the Department of Insurance saying these licenses are required. So I don't know how they can make that response, and I'd be happy to provide that. I brought that letter today, and I'd be happy to provide it to the board.
Any other public comments? All right, bring it back to the board.
I guess I would need some clarification. I don't know if it comes from council or the committee, but was there a review of the specific licensures needed for this kind of work, for this kind of contract?
Because we don't want to not get reimbursed for this, we actually sent the RFP and the proposed contract to Cal OES for review for FEMA. This isn't an individual adjuster contract. This is not a representation of the homeowners. That is not the point of this RFP or the point of this contract. It is to identify if there's insurance, and it's really representation of Cal Recycle. That's who this, and FEMA. So this whole contract and the whole RFP, the whole point of it is to prevent duplication of benefits, which is a requirement under public assistance. So if a homeowner received funds through their insurance or has availability in their insurance for debris removal, then FEMA wants it. And in essence, they will, Cal Recycle will receive that, and then they will give it to FEMA. That's the whole point of this. While I can appreciate the gentleman's response on wanting to be there for people who have lost their homes, or they might have the ability to work with those individual homeowners to get more benefit out of that insurance, that is not the point of this contract. That wasn't the point of the RFP, and that is not something that we're going to be paying for.
So was the RFP, clarify for me if I heard it right, the RFP was reviewed by FEMA, OES?
Yes.
And then afterwards, did FEMA and OES review the specific?
We, when Mary Rose told me that she had gotten the protest, we went ahead and sent it to Cal OES, the proposed contract to Cal OES to make sure. They looked at the RFP, they looked at both of the responses, and they looked at the draft language of the contract. Their concern was the same concern that the reviewing committee had, which is that the other bidders' focus was really on adjustment, and that was not the scope of the work. So it was, he's correct. When you read the two responses, they're very, very different. And I think, we couldn't quite understand why there was so much of a night and day difference, but the reality is the one respondent in terms of scope, which followed the requirements set forth in the debris removal program and the duplication of benefit rules, was Tetra Tech, and that's why we chose Tetra Tech.
And this evaluation process you went through is now public,
Yes,
much like the others have been, so anybody can review them and...
yes, and they were notified of the evaluation score sheets and all bid documentation.
Okay. And who was on the committee again?
Mel Knight, who's our debris consultant, Rebecca Callan, and Judy Hawkins, our Director of Risk Management and Insurance.
Okay, thank you.
And, fortunately, unfortunately, since Lake County got to go through this too, we kind of compare notes in terms of, what did their RFPs look like? What did their contracts look like? What, how did they, get respondents back on any of the bidding? So we aren't having to necessarily reinvent the wheel. And if we have concerns or issues, we can also deal with that. And Mel Knight was really kind of instrumental in helping us figure out how to go forward with this. He has been involved in debris removal programs before, so.
The protest is claiming, like licensure deficiencies in dealing with this. Have we checked those?
That would be if you were doing adjustments, and we're not doing this is not adjustments. This is not adjuster.
Well, forgive me, this is way out of the normal wheelhouse of what we're looking at.
Yes, and that's why we had to let it out for contract, because the state was going to require the county, and we just do not have expertise in this type of, arena, hence the RFP and the contract. But yes, this is not an adjustment scope of work. This is the go-between between recouping the monies to go back to the state. And that was the two differences in the proposals that were given to us. And that is why the licensure is not required.
May I respond? It is a critical observation.
Go ahead.
Question, Chair. Sir, I'm just a little confused on your standing in this. Are you counsel?
I am counsel. I am counsel for Unity
You're attorney
Adjusters.
of record
For Unity Adjusters, correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very well. Let's be very clear about the fundamental aspect of this RFP. No homeowner's insurance owner, homeowner, policyholder, no RFP. No homeowner's insurance policy, no debris removal. The board needs to understand that there is no, I can't say it's impossible, because maybe in Calaveras County, everyone who suffered a catastrophic loss in September 2015 will recover, repurchase, and present proof of purchase of all their lost personal property within 2 years, within 6 months. I doubt that's going to happen. What that means is, pursuant to the terms of the written insurance policy and nowhere else, money will come from whichever carrier owes indemnity. So the question is, well, how much? Each homeowner will provide a different answer. If one homeowner, just by way of an example, one homeowner has $300,000 to repair their structure and $200,000 of indemnity for personal property recovery. If a carrier submits a proposal to restore the burned down home for $250,000, and within that $250,000 is $25,000 worth of debris removal, one might think, well, that's the debris removal right there, $25,000, which is not correct. The debris removal is calculated at 5% of all the coverage. Coverage A for the structure, coverage B for personal property, coverage C for exterior appurtenances, fences, detached garages. It isn't just coverage A. So then the question becomes, well, what if the homeowner and the carrier can't reach an agreement on the cost to restore the building or the home pre-fire? Is it going to be $300,000? Is it going to be $310,000? That directly affects the amount of indemnity owed. Because if the cost to restore the home, put it back into the pre-fire condition, is just $300,000, the total debris removal fee or indemnity is 5% of $300,000. But if it takes less than the full limits to restore that residence, the 5% applies to the additional indemnity not consumed by the structure reconstruction. Same as to the personal property. Same as to the appurtenances. In other words, and it's a little surprising to hear that the RFP doesn't really relate directly to the adjustment of a homeowner's insurance claim when without the insurance, there is no debris removal. I don't doubt the sincerity of everyone here trying to get these people on with their lives. But what's required is a degree of expertise that guys like, where'd he go? Right here.
We'll say something again in a minute.
You know, guys like a public adjuster who dedicate their lives to know about. Again, I'm not here to diminish from Tetra Tech and the enormous job they've undertaken, but if any one of you on the board has had a deal with your own insurance company, whether it's a broken windshield or somebody broke into your house or you've had a house fire, you've experienced the pressure the carrier brings to bear. Every insurance company, like a publicly traded corporation, answers to shareholders. They're not going to throw out money left and right. They're going to do their best to adjust the claim downward in order to reserve their indemnity, to keep claims low. Public adjusters are licensed like no one else. Not an insurance agent, not even an adjuster who works for an insurance company, but a public adjuster who's licensed under the insurance code. And the RFP doesn't exist if everyone in Calaveras County is uninsured. It exists because they are insured.
So he's given you a sampling of how complex he knows this is. I want to go back to the licensing issue and the examining and contacting the state. First of all, whoever has this contract can't just go get the money from the insurance companies. You have a contract with your property owners. It's called a right of entry permit. They have a contract with their insurance company to indemnify them, to pay them for that debris removal. They are in the middle. In the very first place, every single homeowner's policy says that company will only deal with that homeowner on that claim. You need to get permission to deal directly with the company. I addressed that in my RFP. I have a form that I have designed, said we should have the folks in Calaveras County sign it. If they want you to deal directly with their insurance company, sign the form and give them permission. Otherwise, the insurance company doesn't have the approval to do it. Let's go to the license issue. I did not think a license would be required, but I'm a very exacting person. That's the reason I can do this so well. So I looked at the code, insurance code. I contacted the Department of Insurance. They directed me to the department that makes these kind of decisions. I discussed it. He said, send this to me in writing. The public adjusting code specifically says a person who, he's got it with him, in any way acts to affect a claim. I sent them your RFP. I didn't just call them. I sent them, this is what the code says, this is the RFP from this county. And their response, and the reason I didn't think a license would be needed, an employee doesn't need it. And I thought, well, it's going to be a contractor, it's going to be the same way. It says, according to the facts provided, that was your RFP, we believe your proposal to act as a contractor does not make you and your government employees to use the exemption of licensure in CIC 150088. The exemption only applies to government employees performing their duties, while in this concept you would not be. We suggest you and the employees apply for an interim public adjuster's license, which would allow you to quickly get licensed under your supervision and be able to assist in performing these tasks. They wrote that letter based on the RFP, not me calling them on the phone and saying, hey, do we need a license? I know this stuff inside and out. I have been involved in this before on the other side of the table, and I can tell you that the people who have collected the money for FEMA leave hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on the table because they don't understand the complexities of how the debris removal works. And you are obligated by the agreement that you have with the grant, with FEMA, to collect every dime of money that you're entitled to. I would challenge you to get Tetra Tech to show you examples of how they will go about this, what kind of documentation they'll get, what kind of questions they'll ask, and I'll show you mine, and you can be the judge of which one is thorough and which one will get all the money.
I might add that there is also an additional legal requirement that I had to do some research on myself. And the statute, actually, the Code of Federal Regulation, it's in the 500 series, not only obligates the county to recover all available indemnity, all reasonable efforts to recover available indemnity, there's actually an obligation to verify those efforts. And the verification is a statement made under penalty of perjury that you've done so. So it's not simply a matter of they don't have the expertise. It's a matter of whether this county board will be prepared to verify that everyone has exercised their sound discretion and awarded this contract to a company unlicensed to perform the services called for by your RFP.
Yeah.
That verification is, at least in my judgment as the attorney, that's the kicker. Because you sign something under penalty of perjury, well, now you've introduced some serious weight into the issue.
Yeah.
What did you do? How did you verify it? And here we are telling you the company is licensed to do the work.
Yeah.
That's an ugly word.
Yeah. And as far as your staff is concerned, I know they did an excellent job for what they know. They don't know what they don't know. This is a very complicated situation. I get frustrated in trying to communicate it to people. It's far more complex than it appears. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further?
Thanks.
Very well.
Hey everybody, Will McGowan, Project Manager for Tetra Tech. So actually I just want to come up and make a statement. I've lived here in Calaveras for 8 months out of this year doing the Butte Fire recovery work, and I managed the team to put together the database that was submitted to CalRecycle as a product. That product, CalRecycle approved. Now, you can talk about not understanding the debris removal process and understanding these properties. Can't say that because I went through almost every one of the 860 packets personally that debris removal was performed on. I've spoken to a good percentage of the property owners as it relates to their right of entry, including notifying them of us coming to the property for debris removal, including us putting together all the backup and supporting documentation for the reimbursement through CalRecycle for this contract, and working with Mel throughout that project to help make sure it ran efficiently, and any means for the local residents and things that they were requiring was agreed to. So with that product, Cal Recycle is also, we have done the work in Erskine, down there in Kern County, and also in the Clayton Fire right now in Lake County. So we continue to do work with Cal Recycle because of how much they appreciate our product. Now, you can go on our website and you can look, and you may not see anything relate to the scope of this project. But with the scope of, as it relates to the scope of this contract, we've done 1,600 homes for Bastrop, Texas, from the wildfires out there. We've done 600 homes in Galveston for the flood recovery. We've done numerous HMGP along with CDBG projects that relates to this same scope of work. So you can go to our website and you can look, but you're not going to see the quals that's also stated in our proposal to you. This proposal, obviously, this RFP was put before Cal OES and Cal Recycle, along with your staff has verified that it has been thoroughly reviewed. So I just want to say that we have a full understanding of what this program consists of, and we are more than qualified to meet the needs. Talking about office space, we've worked with Cal Recycle and the D-Rock here in San Andreas, and we also are currently working in the office next door. We are fine with acquiring our own office space. We can hit the ground running immediately, so that's not an issue whatsoever. So I really don't want to get into all of it. It's just I think there's some statements made. This contract is not this contract is not a public adjuster contract. This contract is not that. And you know, I just want to say I appreciate your time and thank you very much.
Question. So the RFP itself, because I already know how OES and FEMA works, was sent to them for to verify that it qualifies.
From
Yes, it was. Rebecca Callan submitted the RFP to Cal OES for review and approval, along with the proposed contract as well, and the bid proposals and all the evaluation sheets.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Any other questions?
All right, thank you very much.
All right, bring it back to the board. I'm looking for a motion on the item.
Well, in review of this, it looks as though it was vetted, reviewed by FEMA, OES. They look at the RFP, the scope of work, they've looked at the contractor. I see things in here that, the selected consultant shall be or shall subcontract with various disciplines to effectively deliver the project. I think that is an opportunity as you get into this, if you find where you need those more special or various disciplines, has the ability to do so. I can appreciate maybe the differences of when you're looking at insurance, it can be very complicated. And as I see this over and over again, it is specifically looking at the debris removal and things related to that. And I would think that through that process of recovery and trying to recruit from the insurance, that they'll be looking at those kinds of things, pockets of money, as you might say, to make sure that we're maximizing the reimbursement that is entitled to this specific project. So I'm most comfortable and would be willing to make a motion if there's no further discussion or questions from the board.
Okay. Go ahead and make your motion.
I authorize the board chair to execute a professional services agreement between Calaveras County and Tetra Tech for the recovery of homeowner insurance revenue associated with the Cal Recycle right of entry debris removal operations for the amount not to exceed $854,000 or $854,656.81.
All right, can I have a second, please?
I second.
All right, so I have a motion by Supervisor Ponte, a second by Supervisor Kearney. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Item 17 is from the Board of Supervisors to appoint applicants to serve on various committees, commissions, advisory boards, and county service areas. This item was tabled at the last meeting to ascertain if the applicant for the Central Sierra Economic Development District was available to meet during the day. I have reached out to the applicant, and I have not heard back from him, so I'm requesting that this item be withdrawn until I can speak with him and put it on a future agenda.
Okay.
You need a motion for that?
Need a motion? Okay, nope.
I agree.
I agree also.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay, so can we go to then the consent agenda?
So can I just ask something for the consent?
Sure.
Item 7 on the agenda lists the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting on October 11th under public comment. We had a hiccup, and I didn't catch that when we printed the agenda. So the minutes should be part of the consent agenda.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on to consent agenda. Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion, and then we're going to include number 7, minutes of Board of Supervisors regular meeting into the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Any members of the public wish to pull a consent agenda item? Okay. Any members of the board wish to pull a consent agenda item?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with item number 7 being added.
All right.
Second.
So I have a motion by Supervisor Ponte to approve this consent agenda with item number 7 included. And I have a second by Supervisor Wright. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So we're on to supervisor announcements. And we'd like to go first.
Attended a special COG meeting last week. I also attended a State of Jefferson meeting, which was quite interesting. And yesterday had a solid waste task force meeting. That's all I want to report since our last meeting.
All right.
Going back, I know that we didn't report out our special board meeting. I did attend Volunteer of the Year award ceremonies. That was very happy to say it was received and awarded to Mr. Pete Paddleford of Arnold for his outstanding work for volunteer work in the community. I thank the organization for allowing me to present that. I did attend a demonstration of a digital laser scanning system presented to the Sheriff's Department. That item was actually discussed in the budget, and that decision rests now with the Sheriff's Department as to the comparison of both systems. Attended the LAPCO meeting on the 17th. Attended the Treasury Oversight Committee meeting on the 20th. Yesterday, I did attend a meeting regarding a constituent issue at the Avery transfer station regarding security measures on fencing. I did meet with the Forest Service also to discuss a program that's in its very early stages right now, and until I can verify information and get some information back, I'll be able to relate more details on that, but it actually deals with tree mortality. And I attended the Central Sierra Child Support Committee meeting yesterday in Sonora. And that's all I did. That's all.
I too attended the child support meeting, and the agency continues to do well. For last year, they exceeded their budget in regards to collections, and their numbers remain at their designated approved budget levels and beyond. I attended the EMS meeting earlier this month in Copperopolis, and basically approved a number of air ambulance contracts at that particular meeting. So. Angels Camp had a part of a COG project, review of their sidewalk system, you might say. They had a public meeting. It was pretty well attended overall. You walked different aspects of Angels Camp in regards to sidewalks, and it ended with a meeting in that evening for more public input, and they plan to have a few more meetings related to that. So. That's all I have.
All right. I always like those meetings where you get the planners and transportation planners and land use planners out there walking around with the citizens, trying to figure out how to plan your town. It's a really good idea. I attended the first 5 commission meeting and the Job Training Agency board meeting. It's the first time the new director was there, so executive director. He's a real go-getter, so hopefully he'll be able to move that agency up to the next level, especially with public profile and letting people know about it, because there's still a lot of folks who are out of work and could use some support in getting back into the workforce. I also would like to make a request. The Common Ground item, I'd like to bring that back for next Tuesday, or the next meeting.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
We actually have to take a poll on that, don't we?
No, I can
was
request
absent.
since I was absent, according to our policy.
Who?
Yeah.
Right. All right. Thank you for that.
Unless there's 4 people who don't want to reconsider it, then I'll.
Okay. Anybody else? You've done all yours already?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so on the 17th, I went to Cal OES and met with Cal OES and FEMA. I went with Director Krovitz and Earl, who works in Public Works, in order to kind of straighten out what's happening with the tree removal up in the burn area, and learned quite a bit. So we came back on the next day and did the emergency resolution, which give it the emergency situation. I think that they need to be able to put this into a project workplace, and so I plan on going again up there on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. and see if we can't get, we're going to try to get them to act as quick as possible, because I'm really concerned about the standing trees and the situation in regards to the weather that's coming, the weather that's here, and the cold nights, the hot days, and the wind and rain and anything else that affects these trees that are standing and dead. And we need to get them out immediately. So Thursday, I'm hoping to find out something. And on the 21st, I also attended Sadie Jefferson meeting just to find out what's going on with that. It was a pretty interesting meeting. On 22nd, which was Saturday, had Wines on the Main here in San Andreas, which is sponsored by the Calaveras County Chamber, and that was a pretty fun event. Some of the Calaveras Has Talent winners were there to sing, and this young lady, Romy Evans, if you ever get a chance to hear her sing, it would be worth traveling for. She's pretty awesome. At the same time, the Harvest Festival was happening in Valley Springs, put on by the Valley Springs Parents Teachers Association or organization, and it was a first annual event, and it was full of young kids and young parents, and it was a blast. I was greeted at the door by Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. That was a lot of fun. And that's a pretty darn good event for the first time in that area. Seems like that the Parent Teachers Association down there can put on an event and automatically it turns out to be something really good. So great things happening. And that's about all I have for now.
Chair, I see we have a special meeting on November 15th. What's on the agenda for that meeting?
That is correct. Actually, that, we were hoping to bring before the board before that date, but that's when the sheriff's office will be available to review the Emergency Operations Plan, or the EOP, and then also they're going to be bringing a PowerPoint presentation forward to discuss the future of the Office of Emergency Services, our local program.
So if you remember, it was over a month ago, Sheriff was supposed to bring at the end of October the OES discussion, and so basically we're going to have it all in one day so that it makes sense that way. And I guess the Sheriff had the EOP scheduled on this agenda, and I felt that we should probably spend some time on that. I didn't know how today was going to turn out because it seemed like it was going to be a really full day. And, that is going to be something that's probably going to involve a lot of discussion. So I felt that it would be a great idea to be able to bring that, the OES, and what else is on that too?
That's it. EOP and OES.
Okay, so,
So at the last meeting, we postponed a presentation or an idea that Public
That's the
Works
third
is going
one.
to bring forward.
Yeah,
Are we
that's
going to
the third
discuss it at that special meeting as well?
yeah, so that's the third one. Director Grovitz has a emergency management presentation that he would like to bring.
And when would the board like to have that brought forward?
Same day?
That
Same day?
How about right now? If you want my honest opinion.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Really? Yeah. Go.
And,
Play 2 o'clock.
So-
It hasn't been attended.
it just,
That
we
met with the Shirley Brown Act.
he actually had that agendized before and then held it off because OES thing, and so now it's all combined.
It makes sense.
I will let Mr. Krovitz know about that item for the 15th.
Okay. All right, anything else from the board?
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna adjourn into closed session.
Wait, I need to ask for clarification on an item. Item 5 on the agenda was the proclamations for the American Legion's Boys and Girls State. We tabled it, I think that we said to the next meeting, but I'm wondering if you want
Do it on the 15th?
No, if you want to do it at the night meeting of November 29th, when their parents may be able to attend as well.
I'm good with it.
All right, I'll leave it up to Steve.
You can do it on the night meeting.
I will not be in attendance on the night meeting. I'll be on county business outside of the
CSAC.
city and the county.
Yeah. It depends. I may or may not be here on that one.
So do you want to do it we can do it at the next meeting. I just thought I would throw that out there as an alternative.
We may not have to have a night meeting.
Yeah, let's do it on the
Yeah.
15th, Steve.
Why don't we can do it on the 8th. That's the next meeting.
I could attend that.
All right, 8.
Let's do it on the next meeting.
Okay,
I put them
thank
off
you.
already, so.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
All right,
Thanks for bringing it up.
so let's adjourn into closed session.